The year was 1815. In the tranquil islands of the Dutch East Indies, the morning sun painted the sea in gold. Fishermen cast their nets, children laughed on the black sand shores of Sumbawa, and distant mountains stood quiet under a haze of blue. One of them, Mount Tambora, towered higher than most, a sleeping giant whose last breath had long been forgotten. Then, one April night, the air turned heavy. A deep, unnatural rumble echoed across the islands, so loud it was heard nearly 2,000 kilometers away. The sky blazed with flashes that looked like lightning, yet no storm could be seen. Ash began to fall, gentle at first, then endless. By dawn, the world was no longer the same. The mountain that once touched the clouds had torn itself apart, and the heavens turned black. From the heart of Indonesia to the fields of Europe, people would soon face a year when the sun refused to shine, the year without a summer. But no one could imagine what came next, when Earth trembled. If stories like this fascinate you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It keeps history alive. Before the eruption, life on Sumbawa Island moved with the rhythm of the sea and the wind. The fertile soil around Mount Tambora nourished villages that thrived on farming and trade. Palm trees lined the coast, their leaves whispering in the tropical breeze, and smoke from cooking fires curled gently toward the mountain, a silent presence that dominated every horizon. To the locals, Tambora was more than a mountain. It was a god, a guardian. Farmers prayed for rain at its foot, believing its spirit blessed their harvests. The forests on its slopes were alive with deer and birds, and small kingdoms dotted its valleys, their people bound to the earth and the tides. Yet beneath that calm beauty, deep inside the mountain's core, something ancient stirred. For centuries, molten pressure had been building, a trapped ocean of fire pressing against stone. Small tremors began to ripple through the ground, dismissed as signs of the season. Then, one evening in early April 1815, a flash lit the sky over the western horizon. Fishermen mistook it for a distant storm. But it wasn't thunder. It was the first warning, faint, forgotten, that the world's most powerful volcanic eruption in recorded history was about to begin. April 5th, 1815. Night fell over Sumbawa, silent, windless, almost sacred. Then came the roar. A cannon-like blast tore through the dark, shaking the sea and shattering windows hundreds of miles away. The villagers of Tambora looked to the summit and saw fire blooming against the stars, a pillar of light reaching into the heavens, followed by a rain of ash that turned the moon to blood. For days, the mountain rumbled like a wounded beast. The earth quaked beneath the people's feet. Trees snapped like twigs, and hot stones rained down from the sky. On the evening of April 10th, the true eruption began, an explosion so violent that it was heard over 2,600 kilometers away in Sumatra. The entire island shook as if the world's heart had stopped. A column of fire and ash rose more than 40 kilometers high, higher than any storm cloud, glowing orange and red as lightning cracked within it. Rivers of molten rock thundered down the slopes, devouring villages in their path. The air turned thick with sulfur and smoke, choking lungs and darkening the sky until it was night again. Even at noon, ships sailing hundreds of miles away reported the ocean covered in floating pumice, thick enough to stop their hulls. The sea boiled. The sky rained ash. Birds dropped lifeless from the air. People fled toward the coast, only to be swallowed by waves, tsunamis born from the mountain's collapsing heart. When the final explosion came, the mountain itself was gone. Tambora's 4,300-meter peak was ripped apart, leaving behind a vast hollow crater, 6 kilometers wide and more than a kilometer deep. For hours, the world around it vanished in darkness. In Java, more than 800 kilometers away, the sound was mistaken for distant cannon fire. British officers thought war had come to the islands. Yet what raged was not battle. It was the planet itself, breaking free of its silence. Ash began to drift westward, carried by the wind, spreading across oceans and continents. In the following days, sailors in the Indian Ocean reported black rain falling on their decks. The sun appeared dim, its light filtered through a veil of dust. No one yet understood that this was not a local tragedy. It was a planetary one. On Sumbawa, tens of thousands perished instantly. Entire kingdoms, Tambora, Pekat, Sangar, disappeared from maps. The survivors described the world afterward as a place without color, without sound. The air was thick, the rivers ran black, and no dawn came. Only ash, silence, and the memory of a mountain that had once been alive. The eruption of Mount Tambora was the loudest sound in human history, a force so immense that it reached the edge of the stratosphere. It would not only erase civilizations nearby, but alter the fate of the entire planet. And as the ash continued to fall, it carried with it a shadow that would soon blanket the earth. When the roar of the mountain finally faded, an unearthly silence settled across the islands. The horizon, once green and alive, was now buried under a gray shroud. Palm trees lay uprooted like matchsticks. Rivers overflowed with ash and corpses. Villages that had stood for centuries were reduced to ghostly outlines beneath layers of soot. For miles, nothing moved. The air smelled of sulfur and death. Survivors crawled from the ruins with eyes swollen shut, coughing through the dust that clung to every breath. The sun, once blazing over the tropics, became a pale, trembling disk behind a veil of ash. Days turned cold, unnaturally cold, as if the world itself had stopped breathing. On neighboring islands like Lombok and Bali, people awoke to darkness at noon. Chickens refused to crow, crops wilted under falling soot, and the sea was silent. In Java, more than 1,000 kilometers away, ash fell like snow, coating rooftops and rice fields. Even there, thousands died of hunger as crops failed and disease spread. The once majestic kingdom of Tambora ceased to exist. More than 10,000 people vanished in a single night, swallowed by fire and mud. But the death toll did not end there. Famine followed in the eruption's wake, carrying away tens of thousands more across the Indonesian archipelago. And far beyond Asia, the sky itself began to change. In Europe and North America, sunsets turned blood red. The moon glowed blue, A strange, chilling mist settled over distant lands. The breath of tambora traveling the globe. The earth had entered its long winter of sorrow, a silent season that no one understood. And the world would soon call it by a haunting name, the year without a summer. In the year that followed, the planet seemed to lose its balance. By the spring of 1816, the skies over Europe dimmed into a permanent twilight. Farmers awoke to frost in June. Snow fell in July. Rivers froze that had never frozen before. Across North America, birds fell from the air mid-flight, and entire harvests failed overnight. The eruption of Mount Tambora had thrown more than 150 cubic kilometers of ash and sulfur into the stratosphere, a cloud so vast it encircled the earth. Sunlight scattered off the fine particles, cooling the atmosphere by nearly 3 degrees Celsius. It doesn't sound like much, but for a fragile world still recovering from war and famine, it was catastrophic. In Europe, fields turned to mud. Families burned furniture to survive the cold. In France, riots broke out as bread prices tripled. In Ireland, thousands starved. And in the United States, desperate farmers fled south, seeking warmth that never came. Newspapers called it 1800 and froze to death. But in the darkness, art and invention found strange new life. In a lakeside villa near Geneva, a group of young writers took shelter from the endless storms. One of them, a woman named Mary Shelley, began writing a novel about a scientist who brings the dead to life, Frankenstein. The thunder outside her window was the echo of tambora. Meanwhile, the cold inspired new ways to survive. In Europe, new grain varieties were bred to resist frost. In China and India, famine reshaped trade and migration patterns. The eruption's effects stretched across continents, altering economies, inspiring revolutions, and transforming the way humanity understood the power of nature. Modern science would later identify tambora as the most powerful volcanic eruption in recorded history. 10 times stronger than Krakatoa, 100 times greater than Mount St. Helens. It ejected enough material to build mountains anew, and yet, for decades, its story remained half forgotten. The world had learned that a single event, born from the heart of one island, could touch every corner of the globe. And beneath the lessons of survival and adaptation lay a quieter truth. Humanity lives not above the earth, but within it, bound to its rhythm and forever at its mercy. 2 centuries have passed since the sky darkened over Sumbawa. Today, Mount Tambora rests in silence, its caldera a vast, tranquil wound filled with mist and memory. Villagers walk its slopes again, unaware that beneath their feet sleeps the same force that once changed the world. The year without a summer remains a testament to how fragile our existence truly is, how one mountain, one night, can redraw the destiny of nations. It reminds us that nature writes history not in words, but in ash, fire, and silence. Every sunrise we take for granted, every calm morning sky, carries the echo of tambora, a whisper from the earth that balance is never permanent. And yet, from that darkness, humanity endured. We adapted, learned, and dreamed. Because even when the world trembles, the will to survive burns brighter than the ashes it leaves behind. If you believe these stories should never be forgotten, subscribe and keep history alive. When Earth trembles.